McWhirter.
Yes, sir. I'm glad to be here, man.
Lucas, of course, is a regular up here at Nexus Esports in the corner of 6th Street and Columbus. We come to you now just in the middle of starting round one, game one between Cory and Ray here. Cory bringing mono green Tron to the table, and of course Ray switching it up a little bit and playing a little mono black control this week. So, Lucas, tell me, you've played against Ray before. You played against his mono black control. What do you think of it?
Absolutely. So, I mean, Ray's a great player when it comes to the mono black control. He's been working that. It's his first deck that he ever tried to build in Magic, so he knows the ins and outs of every combo that he could possibly want. And playing cards like Liliana and adding in everything like that is going to be crucial when it comes with Cory and his mono green Tron. Just getting cards out of his hand that, obviously he doesn't want. Earlier we saw Walking Ballista leave after he pulled some cards with Ancient Stirring. So looks like he's already got the lands up right now, and he's only got one basic. So if he can start making them smallpox, maybe sack a land, Ray could be in a good spot. But we'll see how it's going, though.
Definitely, but that being said, Tron is built, and there comes out the Wormcoil engine and a chromatic sphere.
Yep.
Wormcoil engine is one of the more powerful cards ever printed in Modern. It is basically one of the most efficient creatures you can get in colorless.
Absolutely. I mean, I completely agree. And now that he does have the land base, and now that he does have the engine, Ray's got to be thinking quick here. Maybe there's a Liliana, you have to sacrifice a creature. That could work. But, man, Ray's in a tricky position right now because he's got the land base. He's got everything that he needs. This could be really fast-paced for Cory to come out ahead.
Definitely. Of course, that is one of the advantages of Tron is the ability to simply he's going to tap and crack his chromatic sphere, get that card draw.
Yep, and looks like that is his last basic land leaving. So he does not have any green left, and looks like they're discussing something.
Well,
probably just which lands they're going to go, and okay. Yep, creatures. And now he's got, with Wormcoil dying, he's going to get the 3/3 colorless.
And he has to discard a card, so there goes that. So the big play here, it did get rid of the big 6/6, but unfortunately it doesn't deal with the 3/3s. Fatal Push right now would be kind of niche here. We see a rat come out. So yeah, that's going to get some damage on Cory, but now it Ray's in a bit of a race because while he did disperse the damage between the two creatures, the two tokens produced by Wormcoil Engine, it doesn't really solve the problem with the fact that he's going to take 6 to the face.
Absolutely. I mean, that is a very fast clock, and Ray does not have a whole lot of cards in hand, I don't see. And that's just a map coming out. I don't know there's a whole lot of options. Look, you almost saw that card in Ray's hand, but it did not look like a discard spell, so I don't know what he's going to plan on right now. And as that tower comes out, looks like Cory's got the land base. Just in case a smallpox does come out again, he is prepared.
Definitely. Hello, Zesty. Welcome to the stream tonight here at Nexus Esports coverage of Friday Night Magic Modern. I'm not really sure what Ray can do in this situation. Mono Green Tron is one of the more powerful decks you see in Modern right now. It's fast, it's consistent. Ancient Stirrings and things like Sylvan Scrying allow you to just get what you need, and the amount of power that you see in colors right now is it's really strong. You see there he reveals a what was that? Karn Liberated, right? Karn Liberated.
One of the most powerful cards in Magic again, also printed. Yeah, and so it looks like Ray's up. He's untapped. He's thinking about the cards he drew. He knows he has a Karn in hand, so if there's any way he can just get rid of that, that would be clutch. But
the big unfortunate thing is that Ray just needs to be able to deal with the creatures in hand. He knows the Karn's coming out next turn. Honestly, I think he's outmatched.
Yeah, he might end up, because he's still got, on top of the Karn that's about to come out, you've got 6 damage pushing every turn.
Yep. Hello, Al. Welcome to the stream tonight. Here we see the 2 cards being revealed. Neither of them can be hit by Inquisition of Kozilek. Yep. Inquisition of Kozilek is a really hard card to play in this matchup. Yeah. Most of Cory's spells are going to be massive over-the-top spells.
something that you're looking for there is probably just an Ancient Stirrings to stop him from finding the massive spells.
Yeah, but unfortunately that was a day late, $1 short. He wasn't able to get the Ancient Stirrings out of his hand last turn, and that would have been crucial. Yep, and here it comes out. I believe that's going to be the Ulamog popping out.
Oh,
Yep,
man.
Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger, arguably the most powerful Titan in the game now of the Eldrazi Titans. I mean, there's some differing opinions there.
No, I absolutely agree, but I mean, there's very little that Ray's able to do at this point. I mean, with the Annihilator 2, that is just, or it's not Annihilator, but it's just exiling 2 target permanents. And it looks like Ray's just going to scoop and go to the next game for the sideboards.
Definitely. Thing about Ulamog, I remember when it came out, I had big problems with this card. It's like 3 different win conditions on a stick.
Yep.
It, of course, has the mill that's uncounterable because it exiles it instead of milling it, so you can't even get like deck recycling back in.
Yep.
It's just a 10-10 body, so if it hits you twice, you die. And then, of course, the other big thing is that it's going to get rid of 2 things, the 2 most likely things you have that will deal with it.
Even if you counter it.
Yep.
There's
Even counter
not a
it.
lot you can do when Ulamog is cast. But
I've actually watched people cast it get countered, and they just don't care because they're going to exile 2 of your lands and just deny you.
Slow you down. Yeah, there's a couple of Eldrazi that have been floating around in Modern, but I mean, not a whole lot other than just Ulamog dominating the forts when it comes that way. So if you're Ray here, what are you trying to what are you trying to look for when it comes to sideboarding against Cory? Because you're thinking, okay, I've got a bunch of creature hate, maybe sacrifice spells, but at the end of the day, I mean, if you can't get rid of those lands, and I don't know how much land destruction Ray has in his sideboard.
So that's the thing, and also I think I might have mislabeled his deck there. I believe this is actually his 8-rack deck. The big problem that Ray has is that he doesn't, like 8-rack is limited in its ability to answer very specific threats. As we all know, Lane Line of Sanctity does a number on 8-rack because 8-rack in its initial build doesn't actually have any answers. Ray, I don't think, actually has the answers built into his sideboard either. The typical answer you would have is a Ghost Quarter, a Field of Ruin. You would have combo killing cards like Extirpates to just pull the threats out. But I don't think Ray has those things in his sideboard. So it's definitely... It's definitely... I hate to call it, but I think Ray might just be outmatched in terms of deck at this point.
No worries. Mike, thanks for the follow. Really appreciate that. And it looks like these players are done sideboarding. We're getting ready in the game 2. And so let's talk about the opposite. So you're Cory. Hey, Ray is probably going to side in a whole bunch of hand hate, just early game punishers. How do you deal with that? Because if you lose too many of your key land cards, the Urzes, then what's the plan with that?
Well, he knows his lands are mostly safe because most of Ray's hand destruction can't target his lands.
Right. I'm thinking of cards like Smallpox
yeah.
and the cards that you would imagine the siding in.
It really depends on what he actually has because we didn't really get a good sample of what Cory plays in the deck. It seems like a very standard mono-green Eldrazi Tron. Yeah. If he has the Sylvan Scryings in his sideboard, he definitely needs to put those in his main board. Are you familiar with Sylvan Scrying?
No, I'm not, actually.
Sylvan Scrying is a bit of an older card, but it checks out.
Sylvan Scrying. Okay, let's pull that card up. It should be interesting. I did see one copy of All Is Dust in the deck as well. Maybe more copies, but still, I mean, it's pretty sweet. But yeah, so it looks like we're drawing back in, and looks like I see a rack and Ray. Oh, I see 2 racks in the opening hand for Ray. Let's see if he keeps that. I don't know how many lands he has, though. I'd say if he has 2 lands, let's just keep it.
There you go.
Oh, yes. I do know this
Sylvan
card.
Scrying, of course, is probably one of the best cards to getting a very specific land. 2 mana sorcery speed, but you search your land for any one specific card and put it in your hand. This is the card Mono Green uses to finish off Tron when they just cannot get it by luck or by normal scrying via like Ancient Stirrings, right?
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. So it looks like Ray decided not to keep the 2-rack hand and went for the mulligan. Cory kept his opening hand.
Yeah, and Mice and Gaming, I do agree that Sylvan Scrying is mainboard in the deck. We just didn't get to see it. So I'm just kind of pondering at possible options he may have had in his sideboard that he wasn't playing mainboard.
Absolutely.
Because Cory, I've never actually seen him play up here. I definitely
he's
haven't.
come a couple times, but it's usually before big events. Cory's a travel player, so he'll go up to Columbus or Las Vegas or somewhere like that with the team.
Ooh,
and
a man of well-traveled roads. I see.
Yes. So, and it's really cool. Every time you cheer for him while he's on the road, and now when he comes back home and gets to play at FNM, it's just awesome. So, this is Cory's first time back in a while. He doesn't even quite live here in around Waco areas. He drives in. So it's always nice to see because I remember Cory and Zach used to play a lot together.
It's definitely good to see people from out of town coming here up to Nexus Esports. So opening play there, we see the typical Cory play coming in, dropping the Expedition map off the initial Urza land. Looks like he dropped a tower as the second land. This is pretty much going to finish him for turn 3.
Discarding 2 cards. Yep, get the map off. Boom, there it is.
And that, of course, is going to be Tron on turn 3. Very consistent. So you have a lot of options here. You can drop the turn 3 Karn and just start hitting your opponent's land, or you can drop the Wormcoil Engine and get the big threat out. There's a lot of possibilities here.
Absolutely, yeah. That's one of the key things too. And Tron forming, and he's going to tap out, bring out. Oh, Walking Ballista. All right, for 3. Okay.
And a Chromatic Star.
Yep. All right, so not as explosive of a turn as maybe Ray was fearing, but that's okay. He's still got to deal with the Walking Ballista now, because even if he makes him sacrifice it, he's still going to take the 3 damage.
Very much so, very much so. Also, just to note, Chromatic Star. Have you seen the price of a Chromatic Star recently?
No. What is it?
There's something ridiculous. Let me pull it up on Google and let me show you.
Okay, Ray. Looks like forcing the discard. Looks like no cards left in hand. Tapping for rack. All right, passing turn. So he missed his land drop, unfortunately. But with no cards in hand, it looks like Cory will be taking 3 damage. Yep.
He was contemplating. Actually, no, he couldn't. Never mind. I apologize. He could technically have popped the Chromatic Star to get the card draw off of it and try to reduce the damage by 1, but I don't think he's actually worried about it too much.
No, yeah. He's got a Walking Ballista on the field. That is a big clock. Ooh. Dot knot. Let's see what he's got. So he's got another rack in hand. And he's going to pick that. Okay, dang. That is not what Ray was hoping to see. And he's got, another star. And it looks like he's just going to punish. Dang. What are you thinking now that you're Ray? I mean, you've missed your land drop. You've got you got 2 or a discard card in hand. And that's a collective brutality, isn't it?
Yeah. If there was a small creature, he could use it. I don't think he can kill anything though. I think he's going to use it, to try to siphon off some life here.
Yep.
Not the worst move.
But with 2 mana and that's your turn, that is not what you want to be seeing here.
Definitely not, no. Ray's coming up short here on the mana. Cory is going to take some damage from the rack coming out. If Ray had gotten that second rack, it definitely would have mattered a whole lot more this particular turn. Getting Cory down to 9 life puts him in danger zone fairly quickly.
All right, popping the star. Let's see what we got. And we are talking, even though he does have Tron, he is missing his land drops as well. What is that he just played? Is that the Sylvan Scrying, maybe?
Negative, because he put it in his land pile and then instantly popped it. I'm not actually sure which that is, because I'm not familiar with the promo art. But whatever it was, he used it to fetch a land and put on the battlefield.
So it looks like, all right, so that he's forcing his lands now, ticking up, Walking Ballista, going to swing in for some nasty damage. And Ray instantly is tying up this game. life-wise. So let's see what he's got. He had one card off the top. Ooh, forcing the discard, okay. And passing the turn.
I'm afraid that's probably it for Ray.
Yeah.
There's too much damage on the field for Ray to survive. The only thing I can think of as a fatal push right now would be exceptional at stopping some of this damage. But to be honest, all Cory had to do was swing through with the dude and then pump his ballista and pull all the counters off. So.
And yeah, I think Ray just forgot that he can do it at any time.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, that is. I think
Ray was really hoping to get that third man to get that ensnaring bridge out, but unfortunately, just was not there.
Unfortunately, that is 2-0 to Cory. So that match is going to go to Mono Green Tron, and yeah.
Thank you for the follow there, Perfect Oval. I really appreciate it. So, yeah, I mean, that was a fairly quick round, to be honest, a 10-minute round there. Like I said, Mono Green with Jazzy Tron, really hard to deal with. I honestly expect to see Cory probably again on this stream tonight. Good play to Ray, though. Just unfortunate matchup for him. Just something you really can't deal with. Green, it just comes out too hard, too fast for Mono Black Control, or correction, 8-rack to really deal with.
Absolutely, I totally agree. This was a quick match, but still fun to watch.
Definitely fun to watch. Definitely fun to watch the two decks.
Yeah.
So we're going to go actually cut to a commercial break, but we'll be back with you for round 2 of the
Friday Night Magic
Modern event here at Nexus Esports. Once again, this is the Friday Night Magic coverage of Nexus Esports, located on the corner of 6th and Columbus in historic downtown Waco. If you are ever in the Waco area, by all means, stop on by our store. We are open Tuesday through Sunday. We have our Modern Magic mixer on Tuesdays, where we hope to soon be hosting the Gauntlet event. And, of course, we host our Friday Night Magic event. It's Modern. We plan on putting more on the schedule as days go by. So keep in touch and visit us when you can.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
And we are back with tonight's live coverage of the Friday Night Magic Modern event up here at Nexus Esports. I am your caster, Edward Teague. For round 2, we have Lucas, who was just our caster, by the way, sporting Mono Red Burn, coming up on Black Green Elves, played by Jake Bourne, a regular up here. Give me a second to fix a slight typo here. And coming out round 1, we see the Llanowar Elves coming from Jake. Llanowar obviously being the premier mana dork. We see a quick fetch and a Shockland coming in from Lucas. That's going to be 3 damage to Lucas. However, he's probably going to answer right immediately with a Lava Spike or Bump in the Night. There's actually a Grim Lavamancer. Not the card I was expecting, but it'll do. Grim Lavamancer. Fantastic little card. It used to be a staple in Jund. A 1-drop 1/1 that turned your graveyard into just, basically a series of shocks. We see the land ramp coming down into a 3-drop. Not 100% sure which card that is. That is a black-green elf. So, Jake already, or I should say Lucas, already down to 15 life. He's going to have to start getting some damage into Jake soon. Thank you, Shaman of the Pack. That is the one. Shaman of the Pact is basically the reason why you play Black-Green Elves. But I think it's a little early to be playing Shaman of the Pact, to be honest. For reference there's Shaman of the Pact. It is a 3/2 body, and when enters play, target opponent loses life equal to the number of elves you control. So we see Lucas very quickly evening up the score. That being said, Jake B immediately answers with another Shaman of the Pack and another Elf. That's going to basically put a whole lot of damage, into Lucas's face, bringing him down to 8. So Grim Lavamancer going to exile cards from Lucas's graveyard to turn those into damage into Jake's face. The real problem here, of course, is that Lucas is behind both on the mana curve and life. He doesn't have anything to stop the damage that's going to come through next turn. Or I should say, typically doesn't. He does have Grim Lavamancer, but he has to get damage on Jake now. Lucas tapping down 1 red. There we're seeing 3 damage coming in, dealing it to obviously directly to Jake's life. Jake taking more damage. So Lucas is up in life, but once again, he does not have the resources to finish Jake off this turn. Jake, of course, most of his damage coming from creatures. Jake doesn't untap. There he goes. He untaps the second Shaman of the Pack real fast. Should be noted that the 2/3/2s are almost enough damage to kill Lucas outright. So depending on what Jake is trying to do, and I am joined by my co-caster, Patrick Cosgrove. Patrick, welcome to the show tonight. You unfortunately missed round 1. It was over very quickly. But here we are with round 2. Jake, of course, you remember his black-green elf deck.
Yes.
And we also, of course, see Lucas with just basically a red-black Lava Spike deck. I'm assuming the black is for Bump in the Night. It's just direct damage to the face.
So it's Rakdos Burn, essentially.
Basically.
Oh, okay. Well, how did game 1 go?
This is game 1.
Oh, this is game 1. Oh, this is round 2 of the tournament. Sorry I'm late, ladies and gentlemen. I had a wedding to attend. I had to be a best man today.
That's unfortunate.
Oh, right?
Because you're not the best of men.
I mean, that depends completely on who you ask.
So, Jake turning creatures sideways. What is Lucas going to do to stop this?
Not a lot. He has 2 mana open. Or he has 1 mana open. He can bolt something.
He could block and then proceed to spend Grim Lavamancer's ability to try to get damage in on Jake. If this round goes to Lucas, he has a really good chance he could win by the hairs of his chin chin chin. But it really just depends on how much damage he can get in now. Looks like he's going to block.
Activate.
Yep, activate. Exiling two cards from his graveyard to get the 2 damage. And then he loses his creature. Very typical Rakdos move.
Very.
Just throwing dudes in front of things.
Let's see what he plopped, though. That's the important part. Did he not actually kill anything with that, too? Oh, that's game.
That looks like it's enough damage to finish off Jake. Yep, it literally came down to that little bit of damage. That's what he did. He did the damage directly to Jake. He was at 7. So that wraps up the game 1 of round 2. But I don't know really what to expect here.
Shamans too early, in my opinion. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're ever playing Golgari Elves, save your Shamans.
His second elf actually worked. He rushed out the first shaman, I will admit, but he used the second shaman to get in 5 damage real easy. So it was a pretty solid hit. The first one, yeah, it was kind of just a touch and go there. A lot of Lucas's damage did come from himself. I mean, his first move was literally to fetch shock.
Ouch.
Yep. A lot of damage coming through there. But he did get the Grim Lavamancer out immediately. I mean, that literally did come down to just the 2 damage. So, I mean, Lucas playing it, razor's edge. But that is the point of Rakdos, right?
Yeah. Rakdos Burn, also it's an old meta, but it checks out. It's actually really popular in Standard right now. There's a Rakdos Burn setup using Flameblade Artist, Footlight Fiend, and Judith, along with just Life Loss and Burn. It's working really well, I've seen so far, especially in MTG Arena. I don't know how well it translates to Modern.
Well, you get some extra toys to play with in Modern. Grim Lavamancer, obviously, what you just saw, and I mentioned Bump in the Night. Or if you're familiar with Bump in the Night, right?
Go ahead and pull that up for me. No, I'm not.
It is basically a black lava spike with flashback.
Really?
Yep.
That's really good.
Yeah. It was an interesting little card. I remember seeing it in Innistrad, and I was just like...
it's a sorcery speed black bolt.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's not terrible at all.
Well, no, actually, it's probably more comparable to call it Lava Spike, because it only hits the opponent.
Yeah, that's fair.
But it has that handy flashback, which literally, if the game gets that long, and you're like, I'm out of resources, oh wait. It does come through in a pinch.
Most definitely.
I've definitely watched an opponent sit there at 2 life, and somebody suddenly realized they had a Bump in the Night sitting in their graveyard.
But, 4 Bump in the Nights, 4 Lava Spikes, 4 Bolts, that's lethal right there. You don't really need a whole lot more than that if we're just trying to count to 20 as quickly as possible.
I would love to see some Skewer the Critics, but can't be too picky and choosy here. So Jake on the play, coming out with the typical Atlanta War Elves, shocking in the I don't remember what it's called now. The Golgari Shockland. Woodland Cemetery?
Overgrown Tomb.
Overgrown Tomb, there you go.
Whew. Had to reach back in the memory banks for that one. Golgari Shockland's not something you see out... that's going to be a Blood Crypt.
Yep. Once again, fetch shock. I expect to see some damage or important creature coming through by Lucas. Because, yeah, there you go. Thank you, Zesty.
floating. What are you going to do with that? That's a Goblin Guide.
Fantastic play. Goblin Guide. You know, Goblin Guide is one of those cards that has always tilted me a little bit. Such a good card. Indisputably just a good card. There's like one time where this dude does not do you like a service, and that's when your opponent just has so many lands that you just consistently get lands in your hand, and you just basically get to draw through them for free. I did once watch somebody, they got out 2 Goblin Guides in the first 2 turns. Every attack trigger got him a land in hand, and every card that he drew was not a land.
Yes.
And I was just like, the value that you are getting out of it. But typically speaking, Goblin Guide, 2 quick damage, shock on a stick effectively, and you even get to see what the card is. Yep, I think it was in fact Zesty. Zesty got the most insane luck at getting hit in the face with a Goblin Guide.
Excuse me. So we're seeing a Monastery Swift Spear come down, followed by a Bump of the Night. That Swift Spear is going to be a heavy hitter at that point in time. It's going to be a 2-1 first strike, if I'm not mistaken, or 2-1 haste.
1-2, but it has prowess and haste.
Yeah.
So it's a 1-2, which is, you know, all right for a 1-drop, but that prowess trigger is really going to come in handy. Yes, as Shadow Dragon pointed out, Goblin Guide gives you a lot of information. You get to see what card is coming up next.
Most definitely. And information is always valuable. We are seeing a Clan Caller come out for Jake. I'm not sure about the Scoos play here. I don't know if he sideboarded that in or not. I don't think that would have been a choice of mine. There's going to be a Lava Spike. There's going to be a Grape Shot. That is Grape Shot, right?
And depending on... That's a Rift Bolt being suspended.
No, that is effectively game.
Not exactly. It's putting creatures in the way. What is that? What is the Scoos? Scavenging Ooze, right?
Yes. Scavenging Ooze is a good card, but yep, nope, he's going to go ahead and scoop it up. Well played, Jake B. He could have gained some life off the Scavenging Ooze. We're going to go ahead and get Scavenging Ooze pulled up here.
Good old Scavenging Ooze. But, yeah, you just wouldn't have got enough.
Scavenging Ooze, always a good card, by the way. If you're playing mono green, it's always a good card just to have. Can gain you life, it can actually get to be a pretty big body, and it's actually very economical, coming in as a 2-2 for 2.
So I do believe that means Lucas is going to take it in 2 and proceed to go on to round 3 with a 2-0 record. Jake, of course, will be going on to round 3 with a 1-1 record. I mean, he obviously could come back, but there are some big competitors tonight.
I saw Mr. Ham is here.
Mr. Ham is here. Of course, Mr. Milton is here with something a little new that I haven't seen before. But if we get a word from Mr. Ham, we'll realize just how powerful the deck is, because he got to play Milton in the round 1, and I was told that it was a really good game.
Oh, was it Milton and
Milton and Ethan? Yep.
Milton and Ethan game 1.
Really solid game.
Came out on top.
Milton did.
Milton did.
And I don't want to put any spoilers out there. I just know that it was a very good deck.
Ah.
Also, we have a mono green Eldrazi Tron out here tonight. And I did put him on round 1, and we watched him stomp the crap out of a 8-rack deck. It was kind of expected, but depending on the decks that we have here tonight, we all know what the big weakness to Tron is, and that is the first 3 turns. So depending on who brought what tonight, we may or may not see that in round 4.
Plenty of ways to win on turn 3 in Modern. Plenty of ways just to get around Eldrazi Titans by turn 3 in Modern.
Definitely.
Eldrazi Tron is definitely never something to be underestimated. I prefer red-green Tron. That's
Most
just
people
me.
do. But with that, we're going to go ahead and cut to a commercial break. Very quick round, by the way. Not as quick as round one, but very quick round.
Well, I mean, it's burn versus aggro. Like, both of them are just trying to count to 20 ASAP.
But yeah, we're going to cut to commercial break, but stick with us, and we'll be returning with round 3 of the Friday Night Magic Modern coverage here at Nexus Esports. Be with you shortly. And we are back with the Nexus Friday Night Magic Modern Event coverage here at Nexus Esports in the corner of 6th and Columbus.
In historic downtown Waco. And hello there, ELX Ariel. My goodness, what a name.
Yeah,
Glad
very
to
much
have
so.
you here.
So we're going to put Jake B back on the stream. This is because of the current lineup and the way it's going to work. I think one of these two gentlemen will be going on to round 4 to face the two current top seeds, which are Milton and Andrew, both regulars here at Nexus Esports. So basically, this is kind of like the semi-playoff to the playoff, as it were.
Yeah, that would be correct.
So, yes, it should be an interesting game here. Jake B, of course, is playing blue-green Elves, and Ethan playing his typical blue-green, or I think it's the blue-green Elves. I'm going to say black-green Elves, and of course, Ethan playing his blue-green Infect. We haven't seen Ethan for a while, so I'm pretty excited, actually, to be honest.
Glad to have him back, Infect or not. And to Shitty, I don't believe you. But then again, I also don't know who Johnny Tron is, but I imagine they're an awful popular YouTuber or something like that. Or a Twitch streamer. I don't know. I'm not hip with what the kids know these days.
Let's just be real here, Pat. You're not hip.
No, not at all. I'm pretty square.
You could definitely use a hip replacement.
Well, I am pretty old. We have opening hands coming out here. Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. I really do. I don't get told I'm the best of anything all too terribly often, but...
Stop, you're bringing a tear to my eye.
I know. It's moving.
D. Grayman is happier than this shit.
The favorite to win, I'm going to actually say, is going to be Ethan. And we do see an elf coming out first turn for Jake.
Yeah, but we saw a Dryad come out for Ethan.
The Dryad Arbor, yeah. Let's see here. What is that? A Noble Hierarch?
That's a Noble Hierarch.
That's a Noble Hierarch.
So, for those who don't know, that was a Dryad Arbor. It's a land creature, probably one of the more unique of such creatures to come into play. Just literally is a 1/1 land dude. But you get to play as a land. It's amazing. And, of course...
We've also got a Elf Archdruid coming out for Jake. This is actually a really good...
startup for him. But we do see the Dismember coming out.
Not surprising.
I think it's a Dismember.
It is.
Wait, if that's a Dismember, where did all of Ethan's life not... There it is. It's updated. And I think that's some kind of creature that does horrible, horrible things.
That would be a Glistener Elf. That's going to be a 1/1 Infect.
God, that is a shiny Glistener Elf. Ladies and gentlemen, Ethan Ham, a regular up here, although we haven't seen him in almost a month, so it's kind of hard to call him a regular, but he has a completely foiled out blue-green Infect deck. It is
insanely expensive, and it looks phenomenal. A lot of these cards are signed by the artist as well.
Yeah, so you want to see the kind of hardcore collector-type player, Ethan Ham is it.
My goodness, and Jake B coming out swinging. That's a lot of elf on the field.
That is a lot of elf, and that is a lot of ability to block as well. So here comes that the second land that Ethan needed. The big thing here is Elves, unless they get some reach going on, aren't going to be a big deal. Also, isn't it the yeah, that is the unblockable, if I do believe.
It is.
What is it? Invisible Spy? No, not Invisible Spy.
I can't remember. I'll have to look at it for you. It is a 1/1 Infect that is unblockable. Infect, by the way, for those of you who don't know, is a mechanic. We've got a Coco coming out for Jake. That's going to fetch him some elves. Infect is a mechanic that puts counters on a player. Those counters are Infect counters. If a player gets more than 10 or more Infect counters, they lose the game. Effectively, when you play against Infect, your life total is not 20, it is 10.
And you cannot recover from it. Oh, Shitty Poo. Thank you very much for the 150. Appreciate you. I'm actually going to pull up one of the Infect creatures, just so we can take a look-see.
So we've got a lot of attacks coming through here, and a Shaman of the Pack being dropped.
not my preferred card art, but there is the typical Elf, the Infect, I should say, the 1/1 for 1, just 1/1 Infect for 1.
So, real quick, Jake B actually played his Shaman of the Pack perfectly here. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 elves in total, meaning that thing actually hit for a decent amount of damage.
The real danger is if that is, in fact, the 1/1 unblockable Infect, all Ethan's got to do is get through just enough damage to kill Jake. Of course, it looks like he's actually going to put some dudes up. Yep, and he's going to pump his Spy.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate that. I know that there are other streamers that come from here in 600
Columbus
Avenue in Waco, Texas, but one of them is a long-haired hippie, and I don't think he counts all too terribly much.
Oh, he counts.
He counts, I guess.
He's funny to watch, especially when he fails to do a backflip off his own wall.
Did he really?
Yeah.
That must have been hilarious.
Actually, I think his subscriber animation now.
I love it.
He landed on his neck. He was on a mattress, though.
Got a lot of card flicking on Ethan's end here.
Yeah, Ethan literally down to the last life. Looks like he doesn't have it. He's going to scoop it up. Really well played by Jake there, to be honest.
He kind of God-handed, to be completely honest.
Yeah, that explosion of elves, was that turn 3, turn 4?
Turn 3.
God, that was it right there. So there you see the critical weakness of Blue-Green Infect. It's got to get through with the damage. Ethan just didn't get enough. He had to end up using his pump spells to try to save his dude so that he could use it next turn. I'm assuming that Ethan tried to go for the draw to see if he could get the last pump spell he needed.
That's exactly what it was. He drew into it, didn't see what he needed, so decided to scoop it up. He probably would have had game if that draw would have been something other than what it was.
And you know,
Infect is extremely dangerous, ladies and gentlemen. You're talking 3 mana. You can easily pump a 1/1 to a 10/10. If you can't block it, you take the damage. That's game. A lot of the hard counters to Infect are things that prevent damage from being dealt in the first place. You see him have trouble with things like Turbo Fog or effects that allow you to not lose the game. Platinum Angel, for example, is a good example. Is a good counter. Unfortunately, Platinum Angel doesn't work as well because the second it leaves, you just lose the game anyway.
And it runs Dismember as a main board. You did kind of see the Dismember kind of backfiring a little bit, though. That was 4 life off the top. Normally, Ethan doesn't care, right? But there you see it. That 4 life brought Ethan that much closer to 1. That elf, the Shaman of the Pact, sorry, I keep saying Pact, exceptionally well played. Exceptionally well played. How much damage was that going from 16 to 5? That's 11 damage?
Mm-hmm.
God, that was a lot of damage.
There was an attack that came through as well. But yes, the Shaman of the Pack did 8 damage by itself. So,
fantastic play.
Only 3 damage coming through. No, when Shaman of the Pack was first released, I remember it being played a lot. There was a lot of black-green elves, especially elf token generation. And boy howdy did that thing get dangerous and dangerous fast. If the first one hits for 5, the second one hits for 6, the third one hits for 7, that's basically game right there.
Actually reminds me of throwing out Torment and Hellfire, because you know if you have enough of them in hand and you're just not getting the stack counterspell kind of interaction going on, it's as easily as dumping 3 mana into it on turn 5, 4 in turn 6, 5 in turn 7. You just can't deal with that much. I don't even know what the word is for it.
Hate. It's just general hate.
Just hate.
Because you can't even sacrifice your own lands at that point. It's not specifically says non-land permanents, which is actually kind of a pain in the butt. For once, it's a pain in the butt.
But it is that kind of just hate, that consistent oppressive hate that you see coming out of black that makes it such a good utility in any deck. We missed the chance to talk about it in round 1. Yeah, I keep hyping on this the utility in green, and going back to round 1, we saw the mono green Eldrazi Tron. the reason why you play the green is for the utility of the land fetch.
Mm-hmm.
Normally people be like, oh, it's just land filter, blah, blah, blah. In Tron, it's pieces of the puzzle. Your combo is your land.
Well, for anybody who's recently getting into Magic who might be watching the stream, land fetch is not just mana ramp. It is at its most base level. It is also deck filtering. There are lands that are combo pieces. All of these things go together to thin out your deck, make sure your draws are more worthwhile. One of the scariest things any deck running green can do is actually empty the land out of the deck in a very quick fashion. You see this in Standard right now with Gates decks, playing multiple lands a turn. And all of a sudden, by turn 6 or 7, your opponent has 19, 20 land on board, and you have the, stark realization, this dude is going to be drawing what he needs every turn from this point out, and any card that allows him to draw a card is just exponentially more power.
Basically, if you can't draw enough cards to get what you need, you reduce the cards in your library until you draw exactly what you need.
Land fetch is extremely powerful and an often misunderstood mechanic, especially in green. And it's even more powerful in other colors when it rarely gets printed. There's red land fetch, and it's usually terrifying. Not as much black, but we've seen some.
White and Knight of the White Orchid.
Yeah.
One of my favorite turn 3 plays.
Knight of the White Orchid is stupid, and it should have never been printed, to be completely honest.
True.
The last thing White ever needed was, hey, go get more land.
But I didn't need land in the first place, Patrick.
No, now you just have extra options.
Yep.
Boo.
No, in case anybody's wondering, one of my favorite decks I ever saw, I called it Army of Light, and it was literally just Soldiers and Angels, super economical, and Knight of the White Orchid was the turn 3 play.
So turn 1, we're going to see a Glistener Elf come out.
That might be the oldest artwork of a Llanowar I've ever seen.
I believe that's from the Dark. Go ahead and put the Llanowar in there. All the things that you have been able to spell and have successfully misspelled, and Llanowar is the one that you hit.
What do you want?
Alrighty, we are going to see a swing from the Glistener Elf, and it looks like he's going to give it the Might of Old Kroza. How many poison counters is that going to be? Oh, please scooch that over just a little more. No, not that one. No, farther back. Keep going down.
So you get, let's say what's somewhere in here.
No, that's not going to be it. Huh. Might not be a Llanowar. Could have sworn it was.
Whatever it is, it's definitely a Manador, because it allowed him to ramp out there.
Now, the Glistener Elf has died, which is kind of bad news bears. Jake is down to 15, Ethan's at 17, but we can't see how many poison counters Jake has on him right now. I'm going to go check that real quick.
If I know Ethan, he pulls out his big old wooden dice to count the infect counter, so judging from the fact that I haven't seen the big old wooden dice come out, I'm going to assume. Ah. Oh, thank you, John. Thank you very much. I'm going to go and pull that up. There you go. There is, of course, the elf that was in question. God, what an ability.
Elves of Deep Shadow. So it was from the dark. Okay, hooray. At least I know my sets. Is that a black? Huh. When did that get reprinted to where it's modern legal? Ah.
Wow.
Go figure.
Wow. Ravnica, City of Guilds.
We're going to see a collected company come out here. It's
Jake's got to hit
a lot
some
of bodies.
Jake's got to hit it big. I think that's
big.
Yep, and if that triggers go off the way it should, Pact will then count the elf token coming into play already.
Correct.
And that will be 7 damage.
Yep,
That's lethal.
Yes, it is. This might be game. Those Cocos, oof, boy howdy.
I don't think Ethan has a response. That should be lethal on the board.
No, it's only 6 possible damage.
Why?
I mean, he can. Well, these two are +1/+1 right now from the clan caller. Oh no, they're +2/+2. Ooh, clan caller coming in.
Was that not Shaman of the Pack?
That was Shaman of the Pack, but he already dealt the 7 damage.
Oh.
He was at 14.
So Ethan's looking at it. He's trying to find a way to get enough poison counters. By the way, did you get the number of poison counters? Ah, there we are. 4 poison counters. I don't see Ethan having the power to survive this. Those elves swinging through.
This is just swing. This is just swing at this point. You just swing. Yeah, swing out.
Hold on, they're trying to do something. Collected company. I mean, a Shaman of the Pack will literally finish the game.
What's the art from Ravnica? Much better.
Seems to be Elves turning sideways here. Yep, looks like that's it.
Oh my goodness.
I think Ethan was playing a little bit to the nerves game, seeing if Jake B was gonna, sweat it. Jake B just did what Green needs to do, which is turn dude sideways. So yeah, Jake takes it in
2.
In 2. Well delivered. Also, and I'm not sure if our timer broke, but almost looks like we're out of time for round 2 or 3.
We haven't been here that long.
Yeah, there's no way we've been here that long. It's only 2 games. So I'm not really sure what happened to our timer. I apologize, by the way, viewers, on that particular point. But well delivered by Jake. Honestly, I don't know what tuning he's done, but his elf deck has performed much better this week.
Much. He's waiting to cast Shaman. Like, thank you. Like, he had it in his opening hand on game 1, and he didn't cast it until he had 6 or 7 elves out. That's how you play Shaman of the Pack, boys and girls. That is a 3-drop creature that burns for a massive amount of damage.
Very massive amount.
That's how you do it. So he looks like he sided in Spell Pierces, which, had he drawn them and the land to play them, would have been extremely detrimental.
Very much so. All right, so we're going to cut it to commercial break, but we will be back shortly with the 4th and final round of tonight's F&M coverage. I mean, should see the winner of the game between Milton and Andrew coming through, and I think they're probably going to end up playing Jake, unless I've got my figures wrong here. So
Probably. By the way, Black Green Elves really putting up a show tonight, and yeah, that's nice. Infect Rush is a tier 1 deck,
powerful deck.
right? And it just got thrashed.
Well delivered.
So.
A good performance by Ethan as well.
Oh yeah, no, always good to see Ethan. Definitely some bad draws.
It's unfortunate for him.
And that happens. You will never meet a Magic player who has always just had perfect draws.
New one. We're not going to talk about that guy.
He was cheating.
Like I said, stay with us, and we will be right back with the fourth and final round.
Don't ignore what's happening here. We're having some kind of powerful, weird alchemy, and you have to pay attention when that happens. Stuff is not to be treated lightly.
Listen, I actually just came out here to have a cigarette, okay, and relax and do my thing.
Yeah.
So, maybe another time.
Yeah, but there may not be another time. Okay? I may never get this chance again. I mean, we may never, you know, be able to return to
Hello and welcome to the fourth and final round of the Nexus Esports Friday Night Magic Modern event. We are your casters, Edward Teague.
And Patrick Cosgrove.
Coming at you live from the Nexus Esports location on 6th and Columbus in
historic downtown Waco, which is getting nicer and nicer.
It really is. It really is. You know, the other, like, what thing was it, 2-3 weeks ago, we had that weird, the competition or thing with the food trucks, right?
Right.
And we had a lot of people from out of town. People were stopping in here for something to, like, kill time between things to do at the little event. You know, this is the place to go and kill an hour, kill 2 hours, kill 3 hours. What else are you going to do? You know what I'm saying?
Most definitely. So, back to the game, though. If you're ever in Waco, please stop by. But back to the game, we're going to shock in a Blood Crypt here and get a Swift Spear on the board and swinging out.
I'm actually disappointed I didn't see this get Fetch shocked. Lucas has been winning with the Fetch shocking himself, so... And, of course, you know, Andrew's actually going to come out pretty strong here. That's a Dryad Arbor, isn't it? No.
No. I think that's a discard, actually.
You know, I'm going to apologize if I got his deck wrong.
Oh, man, I don't think this is Death Shadow. I see an old fetch land here.
We're actually going to get confirmation on the deck type there, but, yeah, so, till then, it should be pretty interesting to see what's going to come through. Early damage coming in from Lucas. All right, so we have confirmation that it is in fact Death Shadow. So yeah, we'll see how this plays out. Not that nothing's wrong. Oh, there goes the bump in the night, by the way. Always a scary thing, bump in the night. But it's not that we don't, you know, we doubt that it's Death Shadow, or it's even that it's atypical. It's just an atypical start that we don't typically see. It's atypical. I apologize. Words, ladies and gentlemen, how do you speak them?
Magnets. How do they work?
Magnets are perfectly understandable and very logical.
Death Shadow is an interesting deck for any of our new and upcoming players. Ed, could you do me a favor? Put Death Shadow up on the screen, please.
Of course I can. Death Shadow. God, such a card.
Phenomenal creature. Absolutely. The namesake of the deck. This thing costs 1 black. It's a 13/13, but it gets -X where X is your life total. So, you got to get your life total pretty low, but once you do, you've got a giant creature on the board.
The closer you are to death, the closer they are. Hence the point.
Now, that being said, it means that Death Shadow doesn't mind taking some damage. Doesn't want to take too much. So there's the Death Shadow coming on right now. He's going to be a 5/5.
Something to note, of course, is the just sheer amount of damage that Lucas's deck can put out. I mean, honestly, if Lucas dropped a land and dropped 3 sources of damage onto Andrew right now, that would actually be game.
Is Lucas running Skewer?
I don't know if he's running Skewer. There's a Grim Lavamancer. At this point, the Monastery Swift Spear has done its work. It's just going to be a cheap blocker next turn. Andrew, of course, he's not getting any luck with land. The one land is kind of hurting a little bit.
That's pretty killer. Can't really swing in here unless he has the kill either. Now, don't get me wrong, Death Shadow can kill in 1 turn. Got another land coming out.
Like he's going to swing in with a
5/5 Death Shadow.
Lucas has to wonder what he's going to do here.
Well, he's going to tap and crack that
land.
God, I can't remember what the Is It one is called. Sulphur Falls?
Overfall. But yeah, he's gonna crack it. That's
And
gonna be a life down.
And he's going to flash in a Steam Vents. Or shock in a Steam Vents. He's going to go down to 5, and all of a sudden that Death Shadow is an 8-8.
Very dangerous little play. Just say it puts both players in a dangerous mode here. Yep, that's gonna be the card. I think it's Double Strike. And buff. That's gonna be enough damage, I think, to kill.
That is lethal.
Yep. So that was Lucas thinking he might have had it, and I'm afraid you just can't afford to take any damage.
You cannot let Death Shadows. You cannot allow the Death's Shadow to breach your line after the life total becomes sub 10. Because a Death Shadow player can do enough damage to themselves, get themselves to 1, it's a 12-12, and then give it to Double Strike at instant speed almost any time they want.
And I think Lucas basically learned that lesson right there. He thought he might have had it coming in, but the truth of the matter is, Andrew had that the whole time. So
That
both
is
these
absolutely
decks,
correct. Veritable, you are spot on. You cannot let that critter through because it will annihilate you in the blink of an eye. Such a
gonna see
good
some
card.
sideboarding here. I expect to see more sources of damage from Lucas, although that seemed kind of like, how can you get more? Because if you didn't have it already, like, yep.
So the problem with Rakdos Burn versus Death Shadow is you're feeding the beast.
But you're also doing it both ways. Because yes, you're getting Death Shadow closer and closer to the point where Death Shadow becomes dangerous. At the same time, Death Shadow burns itself closer and closer to 0 life, and all it takes is one well-placed series of damage spells, and that's game.
Sure.
I mean, we once saw this when Death Shadow played up against the Is It Phoenix, and it literally just came down to Death Shadow dipping momentarily into bolt range, and he just said, by the way, I have a bolt in hand. You know,
And yes, Veritable, usually you only have to learn that lesson once. It's a harsh mentor, Death Shadow.
these are the kinds of games that I do like to see in Modern, though. The Razor's Edge, right? Either of these players could win simply by the other player's slight misplay. There, Lucas was like, you know what? I can take 5 damage. 5 damage turned into 18, basically on the stack.
Yep. Now, Andrew here is a very experienced Death Shadow player as well. You saw him earlier. He pulled out notes on what's best to sideboard in certain matchups. He probably assimilates Rakdos Burn just to Modern Red Burn, which isn't a bad idea. There's not a whole lot of differences. It's a little more defensive in its creature base. That's about it. Grim Lavamancer is a hell of a wall, actually. It's not just there for extra damage.
We've been punned, ladies and gentlemen. We've been punned. I need security and medical assistance immediately to the casting booth. I have been punned.
Christ. I'm not going to ban you from chat, but that is a warning. Puns. How dare you?
We're a serious and professional casting. By the way, really like your haircut.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I shaved my head recently.
I did not shave my head. I just cut it short. Yeah, so after these players go through a 15-minute sideboarding process in which both of them know that the other player is just... Honestly, Andrew has the advantage. Andrew has the advantage because he has the card that matters, which is Spell Pierce.
It's not just that. Andrew has experience. Andrew has a lot of time piloting this deck.
Okay, I'll give you that too. Lucas is not an inexperienced player, but he is newer to Modern. He typically is standard rotator. He's actually dipping into Modern just this year. He's not a bad player, but he still makes some very novice mistakes because his index just isn't there.
And that's kind of the thing for standard players. They tend to make standard mistakes when they go to these wider variety formats. I've seen a standard player put out the 15 grand it takes to play in Legacy. He immediately gave up. He didn't understand the mechanics. It's okay. Well, not the spending 15 grand part. You live and learn, and sometimes it costs you $15,000.
Plus side, if he holds on to the deck, it probably end up being 20 grand not too long.
Oh, by the way, dude, I don't know if you pay attention to the Magic the Gathering Reddit, but some guy posted up the other day, my brother gave me these cards. Are they worth anything? One of them was assigned first printing Lightning Bolt, and the other one was assigned Mox Ruby.
I actually heard something about that. I also feel like that's a bit meme-ish. I think the guy knows.
Yeah, same. I hope so.
Hey guys, I have this card. I don't know when I got it. Is it worth anything? Holds up like the original printing Black Lotus.
Message him, be like, nah, fam. Send it to this P.O. box.
You know me, Pat. I'm hopelessly honest. I can't be doing that.
That makes one of us.
Wow, going into turn 2 and no damage just coming out into either player's life total. I mean, Andrew didn't actually, burn himself down, and Lucas not burning Andrew.
Like, he shocked himself, but what did he shock himself for? Okay, there he goes. Something. Swinging for 1. Hopefully it's not actually just 1. Please don't disappoint me, Lucas. Did you just swing for 1? You've got a mana open. If that life total goes to 19 and...
I think he's just realizing that the sources of damage he has are sorcery-based and not instance-based. So let me take a look at that, because I know Bump in the Night is a sorcery speed card. Let me take a look at
Lava Spike.
the namesake.
Yeah, it's a sorcery. It's arcane, but...
Not really applicable here, Pat.
Nobody's splitting into arcane. They're splicing into arcane.
Yeah! By the way, Kamigawa was a bad set.
Yeah, Kamigawa sucked.
I wonder how many times we're going to have to say that, ironically.
Until Wizards revisits the plane of Kamigawa.
They need to hurry up, because I'm getting tired of this meme.
Yeah, no, me too. I really don't appreciate Mr. Rosewater actually mentioning Kamigawa either in Dominaria by giving us the blue Umezawa creature and still continuing to have Tamio be part of the storyline.
Oh. 18 times. Mentioned going back to Kamigawa, I guess.
I'll do it a 19th. I'm not afraid. We need to go back to Kamigawa. Lots of shocking and fetching coming from Death Shadow. Getting rid of the creature as well. This could be bad for Lucas.
Hello, what is that, Orbitaz?
I'm just going to call you Orbit.
Yeah, Orbit. Welcome to the stream. Where are you coming at us from tonight?
Orbit.
You just pun me.
I did.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Outstanding. Have you ever come to historic downtown Waco to Nexus Esports?
I literally called you out when you spoke up earlier. Oh my god.
I think there's 12 players tonight.
Yeah. Good number of players, but not the record. I think the record we had was 18.
That's good to hear, Orbit.
Ladies and gentlemen, Perfect Opal is a personal friend of mine. He knows who he is. I'm not going to actually call out his real name on stream, but he's not actually typically a Magic player, but he does participate in the gaming community here at Nexus, so somewhat vicariously. Love you too, Perfect.
Another Swift Spear coming out and swinging in. There's a Skewer. Okay, so he is running Skewer the Critics. Hooray. Death Shadow down to 6. This is a bad place to be. So, against Burn in today's modern, 6 life is a bad place to be. You are talking 2 bolts and you're done.
The problem is that Lucas did not have the cards. Yep, and there's going to be that. What was he here? That is -6 of those things. Those are each 7/7s. Almost anything that gives them pump is game here. This might be it for Lucas. There comes in the 14 damage. Lucas has to do something. Lightning Bolt would not be the answer right now.
Is that Grape Shot? And that's game.
Yep. Quick and easy. Andrew takes it in 2, I do believe.
Mm-hmm.
Basically just came down to Lucas not being familiar how Death Shadow could
get insane amounts of damage in one turn.
I want to say its versatility, its ability to finagle the numbers, as it were. Magic, in Modern at least, is very much a game about breaking the rules without breaking the rules. And Andrew's ability to modify his own life total at instant speed on the stack during combat to get in the damage and then buff his creature enough to get in lethal was something Lucas did not see game 1.
Agreed.
He just didn't have it game 2. Kind of came down to that. Close game. But either way, good on Andrew. He's going to take it. He's going to be 4-0 tonight. Top seat. Well done. Lucas, 3-1. Good showing. We're going to have a couple other 3-1 players, I do believe. But yeah, good showing tonight.
I'm glad to hear that you like us, Orbit. And whenever you're passing over Waco, feel free to make a drop by here at Nexus and come see us.
Yeah, introduce yourself, by the way. I'm here like every day.
I'm going to see if we can get Andrew to pop on in here after they get cleaned up and run down Death Shadow for us.
Well, that would be actually delightful.
That would
So we're going to cut to commercial now, but stay with us. We'll be right back with the top seed Andrew and his words on Death Shadow in the meta.
so much left yet to do. It seemed almost impossible. I thought of all the yesterdays, the good ones and the bad. I thought of all the love we shared, and all the fun we had. Please try to understand.
No mail today, maybe tomorrow.
Alrighty, and we are back. We have Mr. Andrew with us, and he has won 4-0 tonight at the Modern F&M here at Nexus Esports in historic downtown Waco, Texas. How do you feel about it?
It's pretty awesome, man. I mean, got to go 4-0. I haven't done that in a while. I don't think I've actually ever 4-0'd with this deck. I was on Mardu Pyromancer before this, so.
Mardu Pyromancer is a heck of a deck. I saw the deck tech on that recently. That's good stuff.
Yeah, just not great whenever there's like Tron and combo running around. It goes long and it's a lot of fun, but especially with Blood Moon people, but it only goes so far.
Right. So we've started a new segment here on the stream. We call in the winner of the tournament every night.
Okay.
And they talk about their deck. Last week we had Mr. Aaron Acosta, and he went over his.
Is he still on Amulet Titan?
He's on Amulet Titan,
okay.
But he's more like Amulet Elder Dinosaur right now with the.
With Zakama.
Zakama. God, that thing is really good. By the way, we talked about 10 minutes about that card alone last time. But Death Shadow, we've got a lot of newer people who are just getting into the modern scene who watch the stream. So go ahead and give a rundown on how you feel Death Shadow is supposed to work, what its strengths and weaknesses are.
So Death Shadow essentially is a deck at its heart is essentially 4 Thought Seizes. If you're playing black and not playing discard, you're probably doing something wrong. So the idea is to play either a Gurmag Gangler or a Death Shadow, preferably on turn 2, as quick as possible. There are certain different builds. Some builds are playing 0 baubles and 4 Serum Visions. Some decks are playing 2 Jacerin Prodigy main, 4 baubles. Some are playing like side hand if they're wanting a little bit more card selection. So I'm actually on the 4 baubles and 2 Jacerin Prodigy, which is pretty cool. It's additional Snapcasters essentially without being too mana intensive. With Death Shadow, you really want to kind of stop at 3 lands, especially like game 1. Your idea is to make a really big creature, swing a whole bunch, kill all their creatures, maybe slap down a Teamer Battle Rage, and sometimes 20 people out of nowhere, kind of like how in game 1.
Yeah, Teamer Battle Rage being +1/+1 and double strike, right?
It gives target creature double strike, and if it has Ferocious, it also gains trample. So even like against, say, like a double block like in game 1, I still would have been able to attack through that with the trample. Yeah.
No, that's for 3?
2.
That's actually
1 in a red.
I ever gave it credit for.
Yeah. Then game 2 it kind of slows down a little bit more depending on the matchup. So I have things like Rise Fall, especially with decks like lower land count like Burn. Fall can essentially be a modern legal Hymn to Turok.
Which we will never ever get again, by the way, if anybody's curious.
Yeah, so Hymn to Turok is a card that is played in Legacy. Double black and says target creature or target player discards 2 cards at random. I play it in Legacy Grixis Control, and I love him and people, so getting to do it in standard or in a modern is rather enjoyable. I also have Liliana Last Hope. It's good for managing small creatures in case somebody tries to go wide against me, which is one of my deck's weaknesses. And so like having something that I can manage the board state with, possibly like recur like a Gurmag Angler or Death Shadow if it's milled over with Thought Scour. Yeah, no, I mean, it has some, like, a pretty bad fell rate. Like, if you don't get a creature, that's kind of like the issues with Death Shadow is you have 8 real threats, and if you don't see those 8 threats, then you lose, because you have things like Stubborn Denial, which is like a 4 spike, not really great, but whenever you have Ferocious, it's a 1 mana negate.
Right. However, I mean, we've seen modern decks with less than 2 win conditions or 2 major threats be tier 1.
Mm-hmm.
Lantern Control being one of them. No real huge threats outside of lost track of what control runs to win. Never mind.
Lanterns kind of evolve more into like Word Prison. Like they'll have like Psymaster Thopterist or like Sword of the Meek and Thopter Foundry.
Gotcha. So they go off of the combo in the end.
Yeah.
But either way, like that's still very controllable. You know, Jund, the original iteration before things changed with the introduction of things like Fatal Push, Goyf was your primary win condition, getting it out and getting that damage through. It was still a major threat. So yes, 8 threats is definitely a downside, but it's nowhere near the end all be all, you know, downfall of the deck.
Oh yeah, it's just
I
a
mean,
certain fell rate that's kind of like
Sure.
a part of the deck design itself.
With today's modern, I find that people are running surgical, right?
Yeah.
You just run surgical. It doesn't matter if you can't produce black. Just pay the 2 life to get rid of the threat the second it hits the grave.
Yeah, so I'm running surgical in my sideboard, just because we don't really see dredge that often, and essentially my only real way to get rid of a ley line of the void if I draw too many of them is to hope that I have a Jason's Prodigy that hasn't flipped.
Right.
And like casting a ley line on turn 4 isn't like the most exciting thing in the world to me. So I just kind of opted for surgical. It's a little bit more versatile, especially if somebody's trying to say like set up something with a scry or whatever. You can like thought scour, sometimes like tag a win condition. Good against dredge. You can kind of hit like their dredging cards, kind of hit their enablers.
If dredge ends up making a comeback, we have seen a dredge deck here, but
Oh no, it's hot.
is it
Like
hot right
dredge
now?
is like one of the best decks in the format right now.
Go figure.
Like dredge and Phoenix, especially since the printing of Creeping Chill, it's really kind of pushed it over the edge for sure.
The Phoenix is giving you trouble?
It can be a little bit rough. Really just kind of game 1, just make sure you don't let them flip a thing in the ice, and just pray that they don't swing 9 at you on turn 2 or 3. And
The last time we saw Is It Phoenix is here was consistent 13 damage turn 2.
yeah.
Pretty rough.
And then game 2 and game 3, I have things like surgical and like that, so it's not too bad. But I have like E's and stuff because now a lot of Phoenix decks are on a couple of Power Ranges Ascension main, and being like especially like in Grixis, there's not a lot of enchantment removal in a deck like that. So
No, you basically have to rely on countering it.
yeah, and then E is also really good against stuff like Elves or anything where somebody's trying to go wide, or Bogles and stuff. So
Yeah, when it comes to people go wide, what do you run for? Just board? Run any?
it's just EE, Engineer Explosives. Is the only real like
Just put it out there for 1 and hope for the best.
yeah, 1 or 2. Like it's good against Elves. You usually like hit like on 1. You know, try to hit like a Heritage Druid, or you can like try to set it up in case they try to like Shaman to pack you. You can do your best to like kind of like mitigate some of that life loss by making sure they don't have a whole bunch of Elves. You know.
We saw Shaman come out and do some massive work tonight. So
Yeah, and especially in a deck like mine where I'm already hurting myself, like taking an unaccounted 7
yeah, the
can
last thing
be
you
the
want
matter.
is a 7 or 8.
Yeah, it's like, oh cool, I have like 2 6/6 Death Shadows. This is dope. Like, oh shit, I just got like Shaman into the pack for like 7. I'm dead now.
Yeah, no, I was wondering, no ritual soot. Looked into it.
No, I mean if I did anything, it'd probably be Anger of the Gods, just because it helps against dredge. The Exile Clause is pretty.
Cry of the Carnarium. Maybe?
Yeah, it's 4 though. 4 is like a lot. I believe it's 4 mana.
It's 3.
But it's also only 2 damage, correct?
It's neg 2, neg 2.
Yeah, see, but also you have things like Prize Amalgam, it's like 3 toughness.
That's fair.
The only like kind of downside is essentially Grixis Death Shadow is a blue-black deck that splashes red for a couple bolts and a couple Teamer Battle Rages. Also like Cave Command, Abray, and stuff like that, like Artifact Hate. Also took out a Hercule's Recall out of my sideboard in lieu of an Echoing Truth, just because there's only like 1 or 2 like artifact-based decks that are here, and a lot of them, especially like Word Prison, has started sideboarding Witchbane Orb.
Right.
And so since Hercule's Recall targets player, you have to get rid of that first. So having like Echoing Truth to remove the problem, whether it's like a bridge or a whole bunch of Thopters is in your way, or Bloodglass or swinging for lethal. Echoing Truth is pretty solid. I'm probably going to be toying around with having like a Spell Snare somewhere in the sideboard, just kind of like help out with a little bit of stuff like that. It's pretty utility, but
So do you find Grixis being the best color combination?
either that or Mardu. Like, I mean, I played Grixis in Legacy. Mardu Pyromancer was like the first deck I like really got into. I like started off with like Devoted Druid, Vizier, like infinite combo, and then kind of got over that pretty quick. And then kind of like Mardu Pyromancer was just like super grindy. like Tron's a really bad matchup. It's like an 80-20.
Ouch.
And even like combos not super great. Just because it's very hard to be like fast enough to like really kill them. You can like strip some of their like enablers, like whether it's Storm or whatever, but a whole bunch of like 2-1s and 1-1s, unless you get like a Bedlam Reveler, die pretty quickly. And there are certain metas where like things like Blood Moon, which Murder Pyromancer really hinged on, not super great right now. So I went with Death Shadow. It has like a little bit more resiliency, but I still have kind of like the interaction as far as like discard. With the addition of blue, I actually get ways to like protect my threats and kind of have
Counter,
like
you
some
get
game and kind of
bounce.
go a little bit longer, but still just kind of end it out of nowhere. You know, like especially like with combo, like especially against Death Shadow against has a pretty good matchup against combo. Dredge is pretty iffy. Same thing for humans.
You're talking 5 color humans.
Yeah, 5 color humans. Spirits is okay. I'd rather play against spirits than humans.
Like most people.
Yeah, I mean spirits can be pretty solid, but like humans just super explosive. But
Agreed. So, if you had to pick your optimal F&M or tournament scene, you got 3 rounds. Who do you want to see first 3 rounds?
as far as like decks to like play against,
Yeah, your
um,
best possible 3 matchups that almost guarantee the win.
I don't know. Phoenix is pretty positive, especially like after game 1. Depending on how Pyroman's Ascension plays out. Any real combo decks like Ad Nauseam, stuff like that. Amulet Titans, pretty solid matchup. Tron's pretty like 50-50. Not super excited about Dredge or like humans. Those are not my favorite, especially Burn. Like especially like somebody that's like really good at Burn can be
Not
not
what you want
fun.
to see.
Yeah, it can be rough whenever you're already trying to like
The
get yourself to a
16
low
walt
life.
deck that
Yep.
only drew the 2 lands that it needed. Everything else was just gas.
Yep.
You can imagine.
Not fun.
So opening hand,
Mhm.
what do you want to see?
Ideally like 1 to 2 lands, maybe like some street race. Especially like some baubles. You have like this thing. It's kind of like a pseudo scry, where you can like have like a fetch land in hand and then bauble yourself. Look at that top card and see if it's something you want to draw. So you can decide like whether or not you want to fetch, or you can like do that with a Gurmag Angler or with a Street Wraith. So you can like see the top card, snag it, fetch. Especially if it's like a discard spell on 1. Ideally, especially if you're on the play like discard turn 1, some kind of like graveyard enabling cards like Thought Scour, try to get like a Gurmag Angler out, like you want like a threat, and then like answers or like removal, so whether it's like Thoughtseize, Fatal Push, like the 1 or 2 bolts that Grixis runs, depending on the matchup, and then you can kind of, if it's like a control matchup, you can cut like a lot of the Battle Rages and Fatal Pushes, because like that's not what the game's going to be about. And you can like decide instead it's a little bit more resilient, so then kind of make you go a little bit longer.
So you don't even want Shadow in the maybe third.
Unless you can like have a way to like enable it pretty quickly, you can just kind of sit there and rot in your hand. I mean, unless you're at 13 life or under 13 life, then it's just gonna, you can cast it and it'll resolve.
It'll just die.
It'll die. I mean, I've done it before where I needed like Revolt and I had a couple of shadows, so I'd like cast it, just let it die, and then get the Revolt trigger and like kill like a Kalitas.
I mean, Fatal Push, like even at 2 mana, Revolt trigger Fatal Push.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot better than dying against a Kalitas. So been cool and a lot of fun. It's a really complicated deck to like.
It's a thinking man's aggro.
Yeah.
Deck. Like it.
Like a quote unquote like big brain deck. He's like you play it to like make you feel good about yourself because you can like figure out the lines and then you just like
200 IQ, 40 chess.
And then you like kill yourself. It's like, oh, I just died.
Well, I mean, at least you're playing to Grixis. The age-old adage for Grixis has always been, you get down to that last 3 life, but so help me, you take this last 3.
Yeah.
Even if I do the damage to myself.
Yeah, no, for sure. So it was a lot of fun. I was like pretty happy with the deck. Pretty happy with my sideboard. Like.
I can tell, as mentioned on the stream, you take notes on your sideboard, right?
Yeah. So like I've been working on stuff and try to have like a sideboard guide kind of put together, so that way I'm not in the middle of like trying to make sure I don't lose like the second game or try to like close that round out. I'm not thinking about that and like the game's going on. plus what I want to bring in and bring out. I can like think about it in my downtime, get like the idea of like objectively these cards are better than these cards in this matchup, instead of like kind of looking at the cards and be like, oh, but this would really be really good if he gets like 6 creatures out. You know, you start kind of like boarding to not lose.
don't
You're like, oh, but if
it's-
this happens, you're like,
it's
I'm gonna
what's
lose. You
most
know,
likely to
yeah.
happen.
It's like no, it's like what do I have to do to win that game?
A quick note, ladies and gentlemen, who may or may not be watching in the past, present, or future. Magic is a game of objective. There is no subjectively better.
Yeah,
Right? Certain cards, whether or not you like them, their mechanics are just objectively better than.
yeah. Like Stubborn Denial doesn't really look too appealing in a deck like 5-color humans.
No.
You know, nor does like a handful of like a group of like Fatal Pushes when you're playing against Control.
Precisely.
Unless like game 2, and then they click you, and you're like, I wish I hadn't taken out all my removal. I'm gonna die to this click in the air, and it's gonna be the saddest thing ever. So I've heard.
Oh, it never actually happened to you.
Oh, all the time, all the time.
Well, Andrew, thank you for your time.
Oh no, thanks for having us, man. Thanks
Oh, most
for
definitely.
having some modern here.
We try to provide. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Andrew. This has been Patrick. Thank you for tuning in tonight. This has been the Modern FNM at Nexus Esports in historic downtown Waco. Come on by and see us. Come see us on Fridays. Come play some games. And if you can't, feel free to tune into the stream. We will see you next week.